There are questions that push you outward, into analysis, into opinion, into the noise. And then there are questions that pull you inward, down through the layers, past what you think you should believe, past what you've been told, past the headlines and the uncertainty and the endless swirl of it all, to something quieter, something solid. Welcome to One Question, a short weekly reflection to help you reconnect with your body, your values, and your truth. This week's question is, what do you know to be true even now? I want to start with something small. It feels good to turn my face to the sun. That's it. That's a thing I know. Not a belief, not an opinion, not a position I could defend in an argument, just a fact that is held in my body that has never once let me down. On the worst days and on the best ones, in grief and in celebration, in confusion and in clarity, I turn my face to the sun and something in me, something very old, very reliable, settles. I know other things too, small things, true things. I love the sound of rain hitting the windows. There is nothing quite like grass under bare feet. A cat sleeping on you, choosing you, trusting you with the full weight of its sleeping body feels like more of an honor than a lot of things people spend their whole careers trying to earn. I know that I am capable of laughing my real laugh in front of almost anyone, and that I can cry real tears without needing to explain them, and that I am loved well by my people, genuinely, steadily, in ways that hold. And I know this. I'm still capable of surprising myself. And that one matters more than I can easily say. These are not grand truths. These are not philosophical positions or hard-won beliefs or arguments that I could make in a debate. They are simply things I know, in the body, in the bones, in the place that exists below opinions and above doubt. And right now, in a world that is generating more uncertainty than most of us know what to do with, I think those small truths might be the most important thing we can hold on to. Psychologists who study well-being have long drawn a distinction between two kinds of knowing. There is declarative knowledge, the things we know cognitively, intellectually, propositionally, facts we can state and defend and argue about. And then there is embodied knowledge, the things we know through direct experience, through our bodies, through sensation and feeling, and the accumulative wisdom of a life actually lived. The philosopher, Michael Polanyi, called this tacit knowledge, the thing we know but cannot always fully articulate. He famously observed that we know more than we can tell. And I think this is especially true when it comes to the kind of knowing that this question is reaching for. When I say that I know it feels good to turn my face to the sun, I'm not making a claim about photosynthesis or vitamin D or circadian rhythms, though all of those things are real. I am reporting something immediate and undeniable, a fact of my particular experience, the kind of knowing that doesn't require evidence because it is the evidence. This kind of knowledge is remarkably robust. It doesn't tend to crumble under pressure. It doesn't get dismantled by a bad news cycle or a difficult conversation or a season of loss. It is, in some ways, the most reliable kind of knowing we have access to, precisely because it is so immediate, so personal, and so hard to argue with. There is research, too, on what happens in the nervous system when we feel certain, when we have access to what psychologists call the felt sense, that pre-verbal bodily experience of knowing that something is true. The nervous system tends to regulate. The threat response quiets. The part of our brain that is responsible for clear thinking and perspective taking comes back online. In other words, accessing what we know to be true, even in small ways, is genuinely calming. It is a form of grounding, not in the sense of suppressing what's difficult, but in a sense of finding solid ground to stand on. That is what this question is searching for, not the certainties you've been handed, not the ones you perform for others, the ones that are genuinely, quietly, undeniably yours. I want to offer you this. Certainty doesn't have to be big. We have a tendency, understandably, because we're deeply human, to feel that things worth knowing are vast and cosmic. That real certainty is about the meaning of life, the existence of God, the nature of love, and the right way to live. And maybe some of us do know some of those things in our own way. But I think we underestimate the small certainties, the sensory ones, the ones that the body holds without being asked. The smell of something baking, the particular quality of light in the late afternoon, the feeling of getting into a bed with clean sheets, the sound of a person you love laughing in the other room, or the way your shoulders will drop when you finally say a true thing out loud. These are not trivial. These are, in fact, some of the most reliable data points that you have what it means to be alive and to be you. They don't require circumstances to be good, and they don't evaporate when things get hard. They're available even in grief, even in uncertainty, even on days when the world feels like it is genuinely on fire. Especially then, maybe. Because here's the thing about knowing something to be true, even now. The even now is doing a lot of work in this question. Even now, when things are hard. Even now, when the news is overwhelming and the future feels uncertain and you're not sure what to believe or who to trust. Even now, when you're in the middle of something painful. Even now, when you're in the middle of something joyful or something confusing that you don't yet have words for. Even now, there are things you know. This matters because one of the most destabilizing things during difficult periods, whether personal or collective, is the sense that certainty itself has become unavailable, that we don't know anything anymore, that the ground is shifted so fundamentally that there is no ground. But that is rarely ever true. And when we believe it completely, we lose access to the very resources that could help us navigate it. The neurologist Antonio Damasio spent years studying the relationship between the body, emotion, and decision-making. His research showed that people who had lost access to their bodily signals, their felt sense of how things actually were happening for them, became paradoxically less able to make good decisions, not more. We need our bodies knowing. We need to feel into what is true. That is not irrationality. That is intelligence, the deepest kind of intelligence. So this week, I want to invite you to resist the urge to go big. Don't start with the question of what you believe about the world or what you think about the future or what you know about yourself at the deepest level. Start smaller. Start in your body. What do you know feels good? What do you know brings you back to yourself? What do you know to be true about the people who love you, or the places that hold you, or the small, reliable pleasures that have never one time let you down? And then, if you want to go a little deeper, what do you know about who you are? Not what you think you should be, or who you're working towards being, or what role you play for other people. What do you actually, quietly, undeniably know to be true about yourself? That you are still surprising yourself? That you love more deeply than you always show? That you are more resilient than your worst days suggest? That the thing you keep being drawn back to, the work, the relationship, the idea, the practice, is pointing at something real? And then let those things be enough, just for today. Let them be the ground you stand on. What do you know to be true, even now? Not what you're supposed to know, not what would sound right if someone were listening. What you actually, genuinely, in your body and in your bones know. Start there, and then stay there for a moment. Let it hold you. Thank you for joining me for one question. What do you know to be true, even now? Until next week, be kind to yourself, trust what you know, and always ask better questions.